Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Buying your medication is easy with City Drugstore's curbside pickup. WhatsApp our certified pharmacist at 662-8769 with your requests. For prescriptions, take a clear photograph and send for review. We will engage you in dialogue and then provide a quotation and link for payment. You can then pay via TDC's online payment portal. And once the transaction is complete, you'll be notified that your pickup is ready. Yes, it's that easy. Send your WhatsApp message to 662-8769 to order your medications today with City Drugstore's curbside pickup service.
Good morning, good morning, good morning from the studios of WINNFM 98.9. This is the lovely voice of Miss Tessie Brown. And across from me, I have my co-host and co-founder of Alarm Clock, Miss Jeanne Williams.
With a lovely voice, too.
And we are talking today about more women. We're asking the question, more women, more problems. And for those of you who are not familiar with Alarm Clock is a show that was started to have change the landscape of the way in which we discuss issues of politics and governance, to create very informed discussions and feature the voices of multiple sides of politics, as well as the regular individual civilian in St. Kitts and Nevis. And today we're going to be talking to Miss Natasha, Mrs. I am not sure. What's
Brooks.
Brooks,
Gray
okay.
Brooks.
So Mrs. Natasha Gray Brooks. And we're going to also have Miss Masha Henderson, Rhonda Nisbet Brown, and myself,
Willis.
and Jan.
Yes, representatives from
CWIL
CWIL
and ROLE, which is the Regional Organization of Women in Leadership, and CWIL is a Caribbean
Institute for Women in Leadership.
Correct. There we go. And today we are really going to be looking at, considering that it's Women's Month, and we just celebrated International Women's Day on Tuesday, we are going to be using this Saturday to talk more about women in politics, looking at women stepping up to the plate in elective politics, looking at initiatives by Cyril and Roll that are trying to shape the landscape for women in leadership specifically, and seeing what they're doing about their trainees and members, where they are. Possibly you could talk about how you can sign up or get involved and benefit from some of these programs as well. So we're going to ask Miss Henderson as well as Mrs. Gray Brooks to just do a test for us so that we can hear their beautiful voices. Okay.
Happy Saturday.
Okay, great.
Hey.
Natasha,
Good morning. Happy Saturday to everyone as well.
Okay,
All right.
great.
Nice to have you both here with us this morning. All right, so the show today, as we mentioned, we're going to be really looking at honing in for the first hour with both of you. And I guess we can jump right into it. What made you make that first? Let's talk about.
Introduce themselves.
Yes, introduce
so
yourselves.
If you can introduce yourselves, let
Who
us
you
know.
are, why are you here? That's basically, I mean, we can say why you're here, but we really want people to know who you are and let those names settle in. for a while there. So we can start with Natasha.
Okay. Well, I'm Natasha Gray Brooks. Commonly known as Shani to most persons, and so I am not particularly fussy as to how I'm addressed. Um, why I made that move? I have been around politics from a very, very tender age. It is something that has been embedded in me from very small, coming up under my grandmother's wing, who was intimately involved in politics, and so um, basically it became part of me. At that point, I would not have known exactly all the ins and outs of politics, but I just found it to be something exciting to be around because it was something that my grandmother liked. I always see her in one of her best moods. And so I thought, well, if that can make her happy, that can actually make me happy as well. So I think that was the start of it for me. I have been around politics, in particular, involved in the People's Action Movement. I have held a number of positions in the People's Action Movement prior to carrying on my studies and even after I came back from studying. So I've assisted in a number of campaigns, which would have included the campaigns for Vernon Vera, Glenroy Blanchett, and Ian Patches Liburd. And so I always had the inclination that I would someday put myself up for political office. In fact, when I came back from studies in 2012, I was approached to become the candidate for constituency number 1. I thought about the decision. I gave it some deep thought, and then I said, I would defer. Yes, I am interested, but I would defer. And so I think the time has come now for me to put all that I've learned, all that I've put into practice, and all that I've done to help others. It's now time for me to do that for myself. And I think not just in the People's Action Movement, in many political organizations, you find that the women, they do most of the work, but sometimes they don't want to step forward. And I think it's about time that we see that balance coming forward in our community, in our country, so that persons can see, not saying that men don't do work, but persons can see where all the height and the anxiety, all the things that we see happening in the forefront, you can now see them and who is actually responsible for it. I think Ms. Henderson can agree with me when I say that, because when you look at some of the different events that the political parties have, you look and you see the women. When you look at the fundraising efforts, you look and you see the women. So why can't the women be the ones or share an equal path in Parliament? Why can't they do that? And I think it's time we really break that bias and let the world know that we can produce and we have produced. And right now it's time for us to be on equal footing with our counterparts.
Nice. So since 2012, it's been almost a reality for you. You could have done this since 2012, but you chose to defer. Do you mind telling us why you made that decision?
My son, I was out studying from 2007, and I would have had to leave my son back home at a young age. And so I decided, having been away from him for 5 years, I think I owe it to him to at least be a little bit more involved now that I am home, especially because he was entering into high school. I think he needed that kind of commitment from me. Not saying that women cannot balance family life and politics, but I think at that point in time, at that age where he can be influenced. He needed me most. Not my country needed me as well, but I also had to balance what my options were. And so I thought I could assist in a campaign in ensuring that someone could run for East Bastille, and at the same time, I could ensure that my son had necessary training and love that he needed from me. And so I decided I would step back and wait until the time is right. And I think nothing happens before its time. So in 2020, we had a general elections. The candidate for the People's Action Movement was unsuccessful. And in 2021, the People's Action Movement indicated that they were doing a search for candidates. And I thought,
It's your
my son is
time.
now out of school. In fact, he's 23 years old. I think I can now put myself forward, having had the experience in running a number of campaigns, having had the time to raise my son. I think I can, in fact, do this at this point in time. And it's unfortunate that women have to balance family life and still the choice between a political career, but that is one of the things that we have to deal with as a society, because some people feel that women don't have a right or a place in politics. They should be home. I think differently. It's just a matter of finding the right balance.
All right. Thanks so much. So Marshall, you stepped up as a candidate for the deputy chairperson of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party last year. Could you tell us a bit about your decision to step up in that way and give us an idea of your involvement in politics as well?
Okay. So I was nominated by a female member of the Central Bastille Labour Branch. Prior to that, honestly, I had no ambitions to be involved in politics on that level. I was prepared to serve and make my contribution elsewhere, which I was doing prior to that. But I was nominated by Michelino. And, she's a strong advocate for women, and she nominated me from my branch. And I had to think long and hard as to whether I would accept the nomination, and I did. I thought I had a contribution to make back to the party. I think the party would, during our time in government, I would have benefited from a lot of policies that the party itself would have been on their agenda. I think I'm a lawyer today. I say it all the time because I benefited from the progressive policies that the Labour Party, whilst in government, would have had on the table. And so I thought it was a good way to give back. I think I have a contribution to make, one. And secondly, I think that this is the time, if not now more than ever, for women to step up and have a seat at the table, the leadership table, and contribute to policies and decisions that affect us on a party level and more so on a national level. So it's for two reasons. One, that I thought it was one of the best ways to give back to the party. And secondly, to have a female's voice at the leadership table. We do have other females in the party who are at the leadership level, but the reality is we don't have enough. And so I thought this was a good opportunity to have, stepped in at this point in time. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what else you asked me, Jihan.
No, just your background and why you decided. So you did answer that. You did answer the question.
Yes, in terms of a background, I am an attorney at law. I think that's known for over 17 years. I can't even believe myself. I think I'm ready to retire, right, Natasha?
Already?
The practice of law is called a jealous mistress. It is quite demanding. It takes up a lot of your time. I'm the mother of one son, unlike Natasha. Her son is an adult now. Liam, my son, he's 9. It's my biggest accomplishment, if I can say, as a mother, as a female or as a person. Generally, I'm the mother. I hail from the McKnight community where I was born and raised. inclusive of Market Street. I rep M Street all the time. Let me take this opportunity to big up all my people in Market Street. But those two communities, both in Central Bastia, would have nurtured and contributed to the person I am today. And so, on my return from school, I decided to get involved. And the best place to get involved was in the community that nurtured you. And so I got involved in Central Bastia, with no political ambitions whatsoever, but just to give back, and give back to the people who would have contributed to making me the person who I am.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys so much. I'm really happy to see that women with children, and not just, we have one currently, are also stepping up, because it also begins to shape the narrative of how much you can do and how much you can be. Because I always believe that women can be everything that they want to be, maybe not all at once, but we can be. And thank you guys for stepping up and demonstrating that as well. Now, before so many women stepped up, we literally feared getting the support. Like, you won't get any support at all. Mainly because, and Natasha said it, people feel like women should be at home still. It's 2022 and the conversation remains. We're expanding that conversation and trying as much as possible to see how women can penetrate or matriculate to the highest positions of power. But we get still a lot that women, you have a child, you don't have any, why don't you do that first and then come back, and that kind of thing. Now, how have people responded to your decision to take that step to get into politics? Any of you can go ahead.
Well, for me, I think many persons always knew that I intended to have some form of active involvement in politics and run for politics one day or the other. Especially persons within my family and within the political sphere of the People's Action Movement. I know some persons would have tried to discourage me in that they say, politics can be so nasty. Sometimes, people go all into your personal business, your personal affairs. Why do you want to put yourself in that particular spotlight? My thing is, politics is what we make it. And so, unfortunately, some people don't look at issues. They go into different aspects, which I don't think we need to get involved in. But once you can hold your head up high, nothing that persons try to throw at you should shake you or move you. In relation to my entering into politics, it was welcomed by many, and I've had a strong support base since my announcement in October of last year. What has changed a little bit is that many persons did not know that at the time I was announced as the candidate, I was expecting another baby. And so that just came to the public knowledge sometime this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so you find that persons are now a little bit, I wouldn't say that they're afraid for me, but they want to make sure that I'm okay and that I can handle this. And even some persons are thinking, this might not be the right time for you to get a baby. But when do you find the right time as a female who wants to give back to your community, who wants to serve? When do you make that decision in terms of, should I wait until I get elected? Should I wait until or should I not even look at getting a family? Because what if I did not have any children before? Do I say, well, okay, I can't have a family because I want to enter into politics? Why aren't men given that struggle to deal with? I don't think
exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
I don't think we should be placed us, or there should be any kind of stereotype based on us, because women have shown the strength that we possess and the things that we can do under trying circumstances. And I think, me personally, I could speak for Miss Henderson as well, because I've seen her work, I've seen her attitude towards life. I think we can overcome many things that men cannot overcome. And in this particular point in time where I am more or less just ready to give birth, I don't see that as a deterrent at all, because if I can undergo some of what I have undergone over the past 8 months, and I am still here, I am still pushing forward, I have not abandoned my cause or my goal, you can imagine what I would do, or what I can do, not being restricted. And so I think we ought to give women more props in terms of what we can do and what we cannot do. And I really appreciate those persons who have supported me. I really appreciate those persons who have stood by me and ensured that even in this particular time, what needs to be done will be done. And once you have that support base, it encourages you to propel, because that in and of itself, it gives you a certain level of confidence, and it gives you a better, it gives you more motivation to fight for the cause that you are championing. And it has been a good road for me, I must say. I'm not going to say it has been all nice and glory with all the different fancy flowers and everything, because there are negative things, but I don't dwell on the negative, because if I dwell on the negative, I would never reach anywhere. And I have always been someone who tried to take challenges and use them as stepping stones. So I am enjoying it. I see there are going to be exciting times ahead, and I look forward to the road ahead. I look forward to ensuring that I can do all that I can for not just my constituents, but the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And once that remains my central focus, I think I would be able to overcome anything that comes at me.
I couldn't agree more, and thank you for your optimism and persistence. It's very much appreciated to see and hear and feel that energy.
And also to say, it feels so strange having this or saying what I'm about to say, but the truth is, I've seen you working and I've seen you present, and I really didn't know that you were pregnant until we had the conversation when I asked you to come on the show, because I'm not seeing you physically, and I think that's one of the benefits of the pandemic, is that we've kind of grown accustomed to virtual presence. So it's even to say that I don't see, as someone in the public, as your being pregnant has actually affected the way that you show up and show out for people. And but what is very interesting to me in even us having this conversation, and Masha, you could tell me your input as well. I guess we really need to accept that the conversation about women in politics and their children or their family life, and actually finding the right recipe to figure out how to get that balance. These are real conversations that we have to have, unfortunately, because as Shani said, it's not something that we ever hear about when we talk about men in politics. We get straight to the issues. We get straight to their plans and their work. Nobody really ever asks them about, how are you handling this work-life balance? But if we really want to include more women in politics, then I guess this is part of the conversation.
Yes, definitely, Jihan. Natasha would tell you that we have a magistrate who sits in the courts in District B. Both her and I are legal practitioners, and so uh, the magistrate as well is a mother of twins. And court is supposed to start at 9, and there was this struggle because, and I can relate to her. Even I'm generally late, I'm working on it. It's a work in progress, but I can understand the struggle of getting two children, ready in the morning and still having to get to your job for a certain time. I'm amazed at some women who do it for 7 o'clock and 7:30. Those who work in the industrial side, and the magistrate has said if the Muhammad will not come to the mountain, then and she made her own, well, not her own, but she took the initiative, and she starts a court at 10. Now there was a fuss initially. I don't know if Natasha remembers, uh, especially from a certain gender, but there was a fuss initially. But she is just as efficient and effective when she starts at 10, whether she starts at 9 or she starts at 10. The truth is, and I can understand what Natasha is saying, that uh, we don't have to change to enter into politics. I think the dynamics should change to accommodate us. And I've been very vocal on it. I am not prepared to sacrifice my relationship with my child just for politics. Yes, I want to serve and give back to my community, but at the end of the day, as Natasha said, the challenge is how do we balance it at the end of the day. In terms of person's reception, to me, I am not a candidate. I have not been declared as one as yet, and that's left to be seen. But so I don't have the same perspective as Natasha. I'm involved not as a candidate, but in another capacity. I work with the party and with the branch, and it's been a breath of fresh air. I think the challenge comes when you have the ambition to be in the leadership level. That is where the challenge comes. But if you're going to be cooking, being the pom-pom girl, helping with a fundraiser, it's fine.
Yes,
fine.
they welcome you for that.
Yes,
Yeah.
but once you aspire or you have the aspirations to be possibly a candidate or even sit in the leadership position in politics, and I'm not saying this about my party or Natasha's party, but I think the challenge comes when you have the aspirations to be in leadership, but for me, it's been like a breath of fresh air. They're open, males and females are both open to women. And so, yes, I do agree that we need to work on breaking the bias, work on changing the dynamics so that women can be accommodated in the political arena.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just kind of in awe. I'm happy to hear these statements being made. Well, we I've been involved in some way or another, trying to as well and have an interest in elective politics, and I know Natasha would have had a more of an extensive background in being involved in politics, and I want you to kind of, you mentioned already that you were exposed to being by your grandmother. That's correct.
Yes.
All right. And then you were asked to go up. I wanted to get a little bit more of how has your involvement with the People's Action Movement really shaped your stepping up? Because I've known and I've heard it in several spaces how difficult it is to to be in a party and get to that place, get to become a candidate. Could you just give us an idea of what your involvement would have been like? Was it difficult? to get to your position now. What kind of qualities do you think they would have attributed to your ability to represent the People's Action Movement in a constituency?
It has not been a difficult one in terms of getting to my particular position. I can't say it would be the same for another female, and I'm not saying that I got special treatment. What I can say is that maybe as a result of my involvement over the years in the party, that has been a plus for me. Because I've held, as I was in, I would have held different posts throughout the party at a constituency level and at a national level. So I was the deputy chairperson for constituency number 1 for a number of years, and also the secretary. I would have also been the assistant general secretary for the party. I was the treasurer for the party. I was the deputy chairperson for the party. And now I'm the general secretary. I've been the general secretary since 2018. So I have been intimately involved in the party. I've traveled overseas to represent the party. And so I think that may have been a determining factor in terms of my involvement. I have been the chairperson for the convention committee for a number of years. And so I think they have recognized my, not only the level of work and dedication, but my commitment to the People's Action Movement. I don't think that it is just because I am a woman, but I have proven myself in terms of what I can do and what I can accomplish. So even when the candidates were selected in 2015, I was part of the selection committee for the constituency. So I had an involvement in determining who the candidate was in constituency number 1 for the election of 2015. So even though I would have, stepped back, I still was involved in that particular committee in ensuring that we had a candidate to represent the People's Action Movement. In 2020, as part of the Team Unity administration, I also would have been part of a core committee for voter turnout. So my involvement in the political arena, as well as my personal attributes, I think would have been a determining factor in terms of making it as smooth a process as I thought it was. However, when I say that I don't think I got any special treatment, when the time came to ask for invitations to be placed for who wanted to be a candidate for constituency number 1, it was open to the public. So persons could not say that, oh, Natasha was handpicked or Natasha was the one because they asked her back in 2012 and she said yes, and she said, but not right now. I had to apply just like anybody else who had that opportunity. And so I put forward my experiences as well as my personal attributes in terms of what I possessed to show them that even if there were 20 other applicants, that I should be the one that the party should choose. I had to go through an interview process. I also had to go through a screening process in terms of my background and all my personal, anything that could have affected me personally. So I think it was as transparent as it could have been. It was something that anybody was obliged to apply for, and at the end of it, I was chosen. I am very grateful. And if it is I was not chosen, that would not deter me. I would continue to work with anybody else who the party would have chosen. But I would hope that if it comes to a point where the party has have candidates in any other constituency that women are given that same opportunity. They are not denied. They are given the opportunity to put themselves forward and show the party what they can offer. Not even if they were not as involved as I was. I think once a person can demonstrate that they are committed to the same ideas and philosophies of the party, they have certain personal attributes that you are willing to accept, and they are committed to the cause and are hardworking. I think all persons, whether you are male or female, should be given that choice. And I think I was afforded that opportunity. And I welcome persons who within our party to step up to the plate, because you never know. Sometimes persons really don't feel encouraged because they feel that women are just supposed to, as Marsha said, make a macaroni pie and come out and sell 20 tickets or something like that. But women have shown that they can do more than that. And I would encourage persons to come forward and put themselves up, even if you are not interested in active politics. I think there are other roles within government that persons can put themselves forward for. And I don't like the idea of people thinking that this is a man's role and this is for the man to do. I honestly don't like that. And women have to try too hard to be recognized. And I think we need to really take a step back and look at things differently and give women the equal opportunities that they deserve.
Thank you, Natasha. I wanted to chime in here and note a few things, because we're talking about the idea that women are involved in different levels of the party, especially as we mentioned, they're welcome at fundraising, they're welcome at doing many other things in organizing, whether it's events or being in secretarial roles and so forth. And then there exists an opportunity, and we can see that through you, to, even though having been involved, apply to be a candidate, and having that process be, as you said, very transparent. I wanted us to also look at the bigger scheme of things, because we're mentioning that women have a lot more to offer. And I want to say here that I think when we talk about what women have to offer, I want to be specific and say women offer an inclusivity of diverse perspectives on issues and effective leadership. So it's not that we have a lot to offer because we're a woman. I just want us to be very clear about that, right? I remember, and I'm sure in the next hour we'll talk more about it. In our first session in the Women in Politics Leadership Institute, which I coordinated last year on behalf of the U.S. Embassy, with my group, Regional Organization of Women in Leadership. There's a lawyer herself. She's from St. Vincent. She spoke on our first session called "Building a Brand and Finding Your Political Voice." Her name is D. Jamisha Prince. She's a diplomat, very young, residing in the UK, on duty for the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And she shared that she had once read an article with the title, "Why Women Are Natural Born Leaders." And the article stated that women's ability to show empathy as well as make below surface connections help them to become effective leaders. So it rings very true to me, because we can see how multifaceted women are. I've always believed that women bring a unique style of negotiation and problem solving skills to the table, a different style from that of our male counterparts. Women also experience life in such a different way than men do because of these skills, as well as their ability to connect with people on many different levels, right? Our ability to identify some of these issues are really not just those that affect us, but those that affect others. That's a really good skill that we have, that we bring. So, and we're all different. So while we find that a lot of our male counterparts can bring that level of difference, women are really, really different. Like we have our interests cause us to experience life in so many different ways, and that those levels of that level of diverse perspectives that we inject into spaces we exist in really help to bring life to many things. So I just want us to be very clear about what we have to offer in the space of politics and leadership at the anywhere.
Actually, that's actually a good segue into what I was thinking, because for me, listening to both ladies now, I'm starting to think, what do they have in common in terms of us creating this ideal woman in politics? And I'm listening to them, and let's ignore the fact that they're both lawyers. Perhaps you don't have to be a lawyer.
No.
But I think it may actually bring perspective, actually. So I actually wanted to know from you ladies, like, what do you think is the what do you think you bring to the table as women of your own circumstances, of your own passions and interests? One of the things I've noted as well, which is maybe something debatable, is that both of you were actually involved prior to your involvement with, well, your current involvement. So Natasha was with the party, but Marsha was in the community. So do you think that's also something that we should really be looking for, or even encouraging upcoming women who could be involved in politics to take more of a have more of an involvement in the community or involvement in the party? What are those elements you think are actually making you have the impact that you're having now, to the point where people are nominating you and selecting you to be involved in your party? Marsha, you could start.
Okay, I think maybe what Natasha and I might have in common as well, that might have, contributed to our journey into politics. The fact that we're natural nurturers. I think women are, as Desi was saying, and we're mothers. So I think we just have this nurturing spirit, one. And I think it's Margaret Thatcher who says a woman who, I can't remember the phrase exactly, but a woman who runs her household is closer to being able to run in a government. And so I think the skills of, running your own family, yes, men do it as well, but the additional, I think, thing is that women are nurturers. We nurture our families, and that helps in terms of service. Getting involved in politics on the higher level, which is when you offer yourself to serve, I think being a nurturer would help. Being involved in the community as well, Jihan, I think that helps, because that's where your service starts. If you're involved in the community, politics is not just for the show. I personally don't see it as that, or just to add something to your resume. I think offering yourself up is your willingness to serve. And so if you're involved early on, as you said, Jihan, in the community, I think maybe because we're natural defenders as well, Natasha and I, we are considered advocates for, we champion the cause of persons, whether it's in the criminal court, the family court, or the civil court. So I'm not saying that you must be a lawyer to get involved, but we're natural defenders, we're natural nurturers. And I think just being involved in the community where you serve and give back, that is the crux for me of being in politics, and not just to put on a suit and walk down to government headquarters. I think
and take pictures.
The essence of it is service. So you do that as a mother, we do it as lawyers, and you do it as community advocates. So I would say, if you want to get involved and genuinely be involved, that you start there. I'm not saying get a child or be a mother or be a lawyer, but find somehow that you can give back.
Okay. Natasha, anything to add? Any other elements you think persons should consider if they're interested, even a little bit? Because we have a lot of women who I think, are interested in doing the work, but they don't want to deal with all of the other, stuff that you mentioned earlier in terms of where people attacking you personally and digging back into your personal life and things like that. So is there any other element you think
I think
Mhm.
if it is you have a natural love for people, then a lot of things would just flow in terms of how you do things. So, as Marsha would have indicated, you don't just enter into politics because you want to put on a show or put on a suit, but it is your love for people, the things that you enjoy naturally. And so sometimes your life experiences would be able to give you a better understanding of how to deal with certain things. So whereas Marsha and I would have grown up in communities where some persons may not particularly want to be in Newtown and McKnight, and so having had the experience of dealing with certain elements which are not favorable, you would be in a better position to reach out to these people and have a conversation that they would not ordinarily have with someone else. Marsha and I, we both had our sons, and so you can talk to women on a one-on-one level in terms of how they cope with being prepared at mornings, even dealing with their accounting, how they balance if you're on a minimum wage. How do you balance dealing with two children and having only earned $360? And sometimes your life experiences would be able to help you to kind of mold and shape people in a different way. So having a natural inclination to certain aspects of life, being having life experiences, being wanting to serve, I think those are things that would not necessarily say the ideal candidate, but it would put you on the right footing. Honesty, I think that is something that you should just be honest with yourself and honest with people. And if it is you continue to be honest with yourself and with people, then there would never be any issues where persons would try to put you in difficult positions, because you have remained true to what you believe in, and you have also remained true in what you've represented to people. So I think some of these things would help to put you on the right footing, not just to be a good politician, but to be a better person.
True.
Because I would think most politicians would want to better the lives of the persons in the community. And if you can better someone else's life, that should be a plus for you. I mean, I'm quite certain there are many other things that we can think of. But I think those core values, once you look at those core values, everything else would just be topping on the cake.
Okay. Now,
And
ladies.
Jan,
Yes, go ahead.
Add in to where Natasha left off in terms of, I don't think we can ever get away from, unless we have a cultural shift in terms of how we think as a people. We can be the nicest, most honest person. We still have a culture where people are nasty in politics, unfortunately. And I think as women coming in, we need to change the narrative. We don't need to fight back and be nasty and, say the horrible things that people say about us. But I think coming in as women, we need to change the narrative, have a cultural shift in terms of how we think and how we see politics and how we behave in politics. And not,
Play into, yes.
Yes.
And I'm also loving, and we can't ignore the fact that both of you are on different political parties, and you've actually been able to.
Natasha, my friend, every day I say, Natasha, my friend, how you doing? I said, good, my Labour friend. But that doesn't mean I have to tear her down.
Exactly.
So, and when we in court, sometimes I say, when Labour win, we're going to do this, jokingly. but we do it all the time. I think we need to consciously work on changing the narrative and the rhetoric. And once you have respect for people, and I think, as Natasha said, I don't think I don't think we can get around it. We have a lot of work to do there. I'm hopeful. Hopefully, you know, some years down the road it would be different. But for now, it is what it is. Unfortunately, we just don't need to contribute to it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that alone is significant. Just deciding not to contribute to it would reduce it.
I've always thought that it would take the women to do that. I just want to say that publicly, that we really do get into the spaces. We do really get into the spaces and change the space and change the narrative
Definitely.
everywhere. Because we've been seeing it. We've been seeing different kinds of women in doing different kinds of things, and like we've had the recent the celebrations for International Women's Day this year was about breaking the bias, and we really highlighted a lot of the things that women are now doing that they don't usually do, or they didn't usually do. Now we're usually doing it. So because I think I remember the cable identifying Aravinda as a multifaceted young woman who
The
would have done
first
pageantry,
technician, yeah.
their first female technician,
Yeah, first
and
female
is a
technician.
footballer. And we're seeing a lot more women. We see women getting more into fields that were, you know, considered taboo before, and dominating in these fields as well. So politics is one of them, and I'm hoping to see a lot more women into that space. And as you said, shape the narrative to become a lot more, I don't want to say friendlier. I guess that's what it's going to have to be because that's what we really, I mean, it doesn't have to be.
Courteous,
Perhaps.
cordial.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and we focus more on the issues instead of focusing on the background of the individual, and focus on their capabilities, so that we can really see and manifest change in a way that we've never seen change before. So I would really like us to move forward, and I'm so happy to experience this conversation as
And
it
it's
is.
so, I remember when I had my first interview after being announced. I saw posts on Facebook say, "Oh, she need to take off the gloves." You know, she was talking nice about Jeffrey, and that's too Sunday schoolish. I guess they wanted me to attack Dr. Hanley. I don't see what was the purpose in doing that. I don't see why I had to, because I think you can bring across your points, or whatever it is you believe in, without necessarily having to degrade anybody. And so I think it's something that we have gotten accustomed to, where politicians curse out one another. And if it is you intend to make a change, or you intend to travel along a particular path, why continue what has been happening and you have spoken about it? I don't understand why people want you to continue along a particular path and not discuss the issues. But it is something that we will have to get used to in terms of making a change. And I trust and hope that sooner rather than later, persons like myself and Marsha can help to change the narrative, because you can impact the lives of others without going down in the gutter.
So true. Well, a lot of times we don't believe things until it's done. So I think once we see that happening more, and women especially who are committed to changing that negative narrative, then we could definitely make some headway and show people that it is possible. And from there, I think we will continue to grow. But ladies, it's 2 minutes to the hour of 12. We are so happy that both of you agreed to join us in the conversation this morning, to add to the discussion, you know, where people are noticing that more and more there are women who are stepping up, not necessarily to the level that we might necessarily want or think we deserve, but you know, kudos to you both for making those very tough decisions and personal sacrifices to really serve, because Your voices will definitely make an impact on the political landscape. I am 100% sure of that. So thank you for joining. Thank you, especially Natasha, with you being 8 months pregnant and just still not even hesitating to come to join the discussion. We wish
Actually,
you
I'm 9 now. So
9. Oh gosh. So any minute now. Thank you, baby Gray Brooks, for waiting. And
And thanks for having me as well,
yeah.
Desi, and it was a pleasure.
Yes, it
indeed.
was. So, ladies, we wish you a happy good afternoon, happy, successful sojourns into your political fields. Natasha, safe delivery when it comes. And we look forward to hearing more from you both as time goes on.
Thank you.
All
Have
right.
a wonderful
All right.
weekend, guys.
All
All
right,
right,
bye-bye. You
thanks.
too.
Bye-bye.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and National Bank.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Did you know that National Bank offers very favorable terms and low interest rate to switch your home mortgage? Our in-house legal department will process your mortgage in a jiffy and free of cost. Switch your home mortgage now and get a peace of mind knowing that we are here for you. National Bank, always here.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Dealing well with a local reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Dealey Walwyn, people you can trust.
With the Win Headline News, I am Kevon Brown.
And I am Yolana Weeks.
Making the headlines, Ministry of Entrepreneurship, Entertainment and Talent Development launches Month of the Arts 2022.
The St. Kitts Nevis Football Association's president encouraged girls of the Joycelyn Liebert Primary School to get involved in football.
Teen violence, Ghanaian students from Ukraine coming to Grenada, and more from Primetime Caribbean. Internationally, Russia has been accused of using a United Nations Security Council meeting to spread lies and disinformation about biological weapons in Ukraine. Western ambassadors say Russia is fabricating the threat to justify war. Now, the details. The Month of the Arts, the first initiative for 2022 hosted by the Ministry of Entrepreneurship, Entertainment and Talent Development, was announced yesterday, March 11th. The month began yesterday with the opening and will kick off today, March 12th, with the launch of an art mural project and continue through to April with various events leading to the commemoration of World Arts Day on April 15th, followed by the prize giving and closing ceremony on May 14th. The Ministry of Entrepreneurship, Entertainment and Talent Development has identified 4 areas of the creative industry: the orange economy, film and photography, music and entertainment, technology and innovation, and literary and performing arts. The Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, Minister of Entrepreneurship, Entertainment and Talent Development, said that the Month of the Arts focuses on visual and literary arts this year.
Areas that we are all very much aware of, but for which we believe not much emphasis have been placed. We all see the work of our artists such as Von Anslin, Sasha the Artist, and the list can go on. And we have noted last year in particular that we would have seen an uptake in the number of persons who would have published various books or literary works. And 2 persons that would come to mind in that area is Mrs. Kimon Archibald Lake, who would have published her first in a series of children's books, and Miss Jean Williams, who would have also published her first book. And so we believe that with these 2 areas, we need to be able to give them the due attention that they deserve, and so they are the 2 areas that we will be highlighting this year.
The aim of this Month of Arts, according to Byron Nisbet, is to bring focus to creative arts, creating a space for artists to gain support and grow, along with raising awareness of the possibilities these career paths have to offer. Assistant Secretary with the responsibility for creativity in the ministry, Keisha Isaac Adams, shared that the ministry has already begun work in reaching out to the schools and sensitizing young people on what the ministry is trying to achieve in legitimizing the orange economy in St. Kitts and Nevis for locals. After visiting various primary schools over the past 2 weeks, Isaac Adams expressed the need to invest in the already existing talent within the youth pool.
For that reason, we want to emphasize the talent development of our ministry because we cannot not develop what exists naturally within our people. So our school campaign is to encourage the children to not shy away from their natural given talents, but to see that there is a pathway to develop them for a better future for them.
The ministry continues its outreach with other primary and high schools next week. Other initiatives the ministry is undertaking will emphasize building brands, training, and networking.
We believe that if the industry is successful, then we must ensure that our creatives are well equipped with all of the tools necessary to be successful and to thrive. Just this past week, we would have engaged with Mr. Ivan Berry, a native of St. Kitts and Nevis, who have made his name in the music industry in Canada. In that discussion in particular, something that stood out for me was that he would have emphasized the importance of us building our creatives to that point where they can compete in the regional and international market,
said Minister Byron Nisbet. With that in mind, the ministry has highlighted the need for efficiently channeling the raw talent of the Federation.
We know that our creatives are extremely talented. We know that there's no question about that fact. But what is needed is for us to take that raw talent and build brands. We need to build lucrative careers. We need to build successful musicians, artists, dancers, actors, you name it. If we are to build a creative industry, be it film and photography, music and entertainment, the arts, innovation, we must ensure that our citizens are ready for the market.
The ministry is also working on creating a TV channel where the creative works of locals will be broadcasted, not just locally, but regionally.
Another initiative that we would have spoken of last year and which we are already in the process of being able to get the ball rolling on, and I'm so excited to speak about, is the development of our Moment TV, a channel geared specifically to the creatives, allowing you that platform to be able to showcase your talent, your content, whatever it is within the creative space. We're giving you that platform to do that. And as I would have indicated then, we're working closely with the cable so that that channel would not just be for our own local consumption, but that it would have regional and international reach as well.
The ministry calls for support from all stakeholders, civil society, public and private sectors, and academic communities in helping to shape the Federation's orange economy.
President of the St. Kitts Nevis Football Association, SKNFA, Mr. Atiba Harris, made a presentation to the Joycelyn Library Primary School in Gingerland, Nevis on Monday, March 7, 2022. The school received various sporting equipment to assist with the physical education program at the school and also for the development of football in the Federation, beginning at the grassroots level. According to Harris, the series of presentations began at the Joycelyn Library Primary School because his family is rooted in the Gingerland area.
I started here in Gingerland because my family is rooted here. My grandmother, mother, everybody is rooted here in Gingerland. So I see this as home for me. And hopefully this would go a long way in helping the development of football and a partnership with the Nevis Island, so that way we can join forces and become totally united as St. Kitts and Nevis as we continue to grow and develop the sport of football in the Federation.
During the presentation ceremony, Harris encouraged the girls at the school to partake in football and emphasized the benefits that can be derived from sports in general.
I'm here this morning to basically donate some football boots and other equipment. As you can see, the color's pink. I see a lot of females around here, and I want to encourage you girls to start playing football.
He added,
so, along with the football boots, I'm going to donate from the SKNFA, the Nevis Football Association. This is just the start of a journey to encourage you to be active, and hopefully football is your choice of sport to stay active, because football can take you different places, sports in general, along with your education.
Education Officer for the Joycelyn Library Primary School, Mr. Shefton Library, accepted the donations and expressed gratitude on behalf of the school and the Department of Education Nevis.
I wish to express our appreciation to the St. Kitts Nevis Football Association, through you of course, for this timely donation. We indeed share your vision that in the hope that this may go a long way in developing a thriving football fraternity in our school and by extension in Nevis and St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank you very much.
Principal of the school, Barbara Hendrickson, also used the opportunity to express gratitude to the SKNFA, noting that she is longing to see the football cleats on the feet of the children. Also present at the ceremony were the staff and students of the Joycelyn Library Primary School, the Physical Education Officer, Mr. U. Troy Library, and Ms. Tasha Parry, Secretary at the St. Kitts and Nevis Football Association.
In regional news, teen violence, Ghanaian students from Ukraine coming to Grenada, and more from Primetime Caribbean.
The debate rages on in Grenada about teen violence after a video showing a confrontation with a student in uniform with local police has gone viral. Police in Grenada are tonight worried that what is seen in the viral video might just be a tip of the iceberg. Callistra Farrier reports.
Violence among youths in Grenada has been causing worry among citizens as videos of students wielding dangerous weapons and involved in angry confrontations with the police goes viral and even a killing. Chief of Police Edwin Martin, during a news conference Thursday, said they are now seeing a resurgence of students carrying dangerous weapons even into the classroom.
Just before arriving to this press conference, I received pictures of the confiscation of a number of what I consider to be dangerous knives and daggers in a primary school. 2 days ago, we responded to a controversy in a secondary school over the steal and hide and re-steal and hide of a gun mirroring that of a real firearm, albeit the fact that it being an A-gun in a school, and the police had to intervene and recover that. Addedly, we have seen also in the videos, recent videos circulated, that kids seem to have the liberty of carrying weapons and firearms on the, not firearms, but knives and offensive weapons on their person at schools. We need to address this. And this is one of the things we need to find the best ways in which we can treat, while at the same time not compromising or treating indiscriminately with the students involved or even the schools. But we need to empower the schools to more effectively monitor this. And the multi-sectorial approach that I spoke to earlier that is needed is specifically to target schools in how we can develop strategies to best address these particular issues. There was some time ago when this problem was showing its head in 1 or 2 of the schools, and police officers had to be deployed back then to support the school in conducting searches on selected individuals who were known to be carrying weapons into the school. The situation improved and we pulled back. Not that the police was doing the searching. This was being done at the time by the schools themselves.
He called for a multi-sectoral approach to tackling the issue of youth violence and greater monitoring at schools. Martin said weapons in schools is a problem they tackled a few years ago when it was occurring in a few schools and routine searches were implemented. Thursday, he said they are facing a similar growing situation. He said parents need to take responsibility.
Is that weapons in school is concerning, and whether I choose to speak of it or not, I know certainly in a social media world that we now live in short order, you will be aware of all of them. So I might as well tell you what the situation is. And again, this is a clarion call here for parents to be more sensitive and more attentive to their kids when leaving for school.
Attorney Jerry Edwin, who is representing the Grenville youth charged for a killing which took place a few days ago, says the issue of youths acting out is not unique to Grenada. However, he said the response to the problem is what will determine where we go from here. He is concerned that the system is not working to help our young people navigate the challenges of growing up in Grenada. For Carib Update News Local, I am Callistra Farrier reporting.
Grenada slams the door, at least for now, on nationals from Russia and Belarus seeking to buy into its Citizenship by Investment program. Our Callistra Farrier returns with this story.
Grenada is following Dominica and Antigua and has announced that it has suspended temporarily Russian and Belarusian access to the Citizenship by Investment program. Most of the countries in the OECS run some form of citizenship by investment, and with international sanctions being imposed by the US, UK and the EU against Russia over its incursion into Ukraine, regional governments are taking the route of self-preservation. A statement from Grenada's CBI unit on Thursday said the suspension is to preserve the integrity and reputation of the program. Grenada was late to announce that it is barring access to Russians, and the announcement comes amid the recent embarrassment of having one of its ambassadors engage Russia to use cryptocurrency to get around sanctions that have blocked access to international financial systems. At the time, Foreign Affairs Minister Oliver Joseph made it clear that Justin Sun was acting in his personal capacity and not as Grenada's representative to the WTO, a post he has held since December 17. There has been no further word from St. George's on Sun's future, as a member of Grenada's diplomatic service. Former ambassador to the UN, Eugene Persu, has warned that Grenada should distance itself in a much clearer way from Ambassador Sun's plan to work with Russia for access to cryptocurrency. International law expert Anselm Clouden, speaking on WPG10's Narrative, called for the immediate sacking of Ambassador Sun, saying his approach to his Russian counterpart had put the country on the wrong side of history. For Carib Update News Local, I am Callistra Faria reporting.
Ghanaians studying medicine in Ukraine whose education has been disrupted due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine can now continue their studies in Grenada. The Ghana government has signed an agreement with the Caribbean island state to secure spaces for 200 Ghanaian medical students who had to flee Ukraine to continue and complete their education at the St. George's University of Medicine in Grenada. The Registrar of the Scholarship Secretariat, Kingsley Agiaman, said the move would ensure that the 200 medical students continued with their education seamlessly so that they would return to the country after their program to supplement the number of medical doctors in Ghana. The registrar said within a month, officials of St. George's University would interact with the affected medical students on an individual basis towards offering them admission.
We now bring you these international reports.
It was the fourth Security Council session held on Ukraine since Russia launched its invasion, but the first one called by Russia itself, Moscow claiming that Ukraine, supported by the US, is developing biological weapons. And the Russian ambassador attempting to preempt the denials he said he was expecting.
I can foresee what the reaction will be from our Western colleagues, who I'm sure are going to be saying now that all of this information is fake and Russian propaganda. But this is self-delusion.
The UN was direct in its assessment of the allegation.
I am aware of media reports regarding allegations of biological weapons programs. The United Nations is not aware of any biological weapons programs.
The reaction of several members was incredulous.
I will say this once. Ukraine does not have a biological weapons program. There are no Ukrainian biological weapons laboratories supported by the United States.
Absolutely everything we have been hearing from Russia regarding Ukraine has been false, fabricated, or distorted.
The British ambassador described the Russian claims as baseless conspiracy theories.
Let me put it diplomatically. They are utter nonsense.
China was the only Security Council member to offer a modicum of support to Russia's claims, and the Ukrainian ambassador argued that Russia had made a mistake in calling for the meeting.
By calling this meeting, the aggressor state has shot itself in foot once again.
The meeting was opened with a briefing by the UN's political and peace-building chief, and she referenced credible reports of Russia's use of cluster bombs in civilian areas, strikes at hospitals, and the deaths of hundreds of men, women, and children. The meeting Russia called to highlight its allegations became instead a scathing indictment of its actions during the invasion. Mike Hanna, Al Jazeera, United Nations.
Let's turn to sanctions now. We know that the US, the UK, the EU have responded to this invasion with sanctions against Russian oligarchs. Well, the latest move by the UK government is to sanction the owner of Chelsea Football Club, Roman Abramovich. His assets will be frozen. That includes Chelsea. But the club will be allowed to keep playing. We'll look at that in just a moment. But first, let's just remind ourselves about the background to this. Roman Abramovich is a Russian billionaire. His wealth dates back to the collapse of the Soviet Union, a time when new Russian companies assumed state assets. Like all oligarchs, particularly those who became rich in the 1990s, he has had to deal with Vladimir Putin. Now, Mr. Abramovich denies having a close relationship with Vladimir Putin, but the UK government has described him as a pro-Kremlin oligarch associated with Mr. Putin, with whom Mr. Abramovich has had a close relationship with for decades. The UK government also adding that he's obtained financial benefits from that association. Here's the UK Culture Secretary.
Abramovich has links to Putin, who is mounting a barbaric and evil attack against the people of Ukraine.
Well, let's focus now on the impact on Chelsea Football Club itself. Mr. Abramovich bought Chelsea back in 2003, and this is what he said then.
I haven't thought about how much money I'm prepared to spend. I suppose that depends on how well we play and how determined we are to win. If I feel we need to buy any particular player to get the results we want, I'll just spend more money.
And he certainly did. Mr. Abramovich has loaned £1.5 billion to Chelsea, and the club has become one of Europe's most successful teams. Last week, Mr. Abramovich said that he'd made the difficult decision to sell Chelsea. That came after calls to sanction him in Parliament. Well, on that £1.5 billion, he said, "I will not be asking for any loans to be repaid," adding that all net proceeds from the sale will be donated for the benefit of all the victims of the war in Ukraine. That statement was criticised for what it didn't say. Here's Alan Shearer.
Still no condemnation from Roman or the club about what's happening in Ukraine.
So now Mr. Abramovich's assets have been frozen. Let's take a look at how the sanctions impact Chelsea and its sale. A special licence has been issued by the government so that Chelsea can keep playing their games. Chelsea is banned from selling more tickets and also selling merchandise and also buying and selling players. And a government source told the Times newspaper that he, Mr. Abramovich, will not get a penny from the sale of the club. My colleague Laura Scott explains more.
Yes, so under the terms of this special licence that the government have issued, in essence to allow the club to continue functioning whilst trying to hit Abramovich with those sanctions, they've said that the club can fulfil its fixtures, that season ticket holders and other ticket holders are still able to attend matches, that the players and the staff can continue to be paid, and that what they can do is spend reasonable costs on travelling to and from games and also hosting home fixtures like this Sunday. But what is clear is that they don't want Abramovich to profit or benefit from the club in any way. So that means they can't sell any extra tickets. Although there isn't a transfer window at the moment, the club wouldn't be able to buy or sell players while Abramovich is under sanctions. The merchandise shop is closed. We actually spoke to some fans here who were some of the last ones in the club shop buying their shirts. That has now been shut. And of course, this does impact on what it means for the sale of the club. That is halted at the moment under the terms of this licence, but we understand that the government is open to considering a new licence which would enable the club to be sold, but only if it can be ensured that none of the proceeds were to go to Roman Abramovich.
$11,000 tons of wheat arrived in Lebanon this week, but this will be the last shipment from Ukraine. The world's key wheat producers, Russia and Ukraine, are at war. Lebanon, like other countries in the Middle East and North Africa, can no longer rely on them for most of their imports. They're now trying to make up for an expected shortage.
We've reached out to a number of countries, including the US, India, Canada, and some European countries, which produce the soft wheat we need for our bread.
But the problem is not just finding alternative sources. Diversifying supplies could mean transportation delays or an increase in shipping costs. Wheat prices have already hit a 14-year high.
Definitely we will resort to more expensive countries that export wheat, which would sell to us at prices that are not as cheap as in Russia and Ukraine. So if the conflict is prolonged and supply is less, this will add pressure on balance of payments or the budget.
Egypt, for example, is one of the largest importers of wheat in the world, and 80% of its supply is from Ukraine and Russia. It is considering raising the price of bread for the first time in 3 decades. It's no different in Lebanon, where authorities warn the central bank may not be able to subsidize bread if prices continue to rise. The Tunisian government, which is believed to be running out of money, has been rationing flour and reduced bread production. Increase in prices will affect millions of people in the Middle East and North Africa who live in poverty.
The Ukrainian-Russian war will affect import, export and trade because we are all importers of wheat and most of the foodstuffs are from abroad.
Across this region, economies have been hit by inflation and large public debts. Others have been destroyed by war. Syria no longer produces enough wheat to feed its population, so it relies on imports and is now rationing wheat. The World Food Programme says 12 million Syrians are food insecure, while Yemen is on the brink of famine.
Yemen, for example, where 16 million people require food assistance, and the World Food Programme is assisting 13 million of them. This country is almost entirely dependent on food imports and depends on imports of wheat from Ukraine, by about 30%. So any shock, any slight shock would actually send these countries into a very, very serious food crisis.
Food prices are at their highest level, so is poverty, in a region already in turmoil and where higher bread prices have led to popular anger in the past. Zana Khuder, Al Jazeera.
You were listening to the WINNFM Headline News on 98.9. Our top stories were: Ministry of Entrepreneurship, Entertainment and Talent Development launches Month of the Arts 2022.
The St. Kitts Nevis Football Association's president encouraged girls of the Joycelyn Liebert Primary School to get involved in football.
Teen violence, Ghanaian students from Ukraine coming to Grenada, and more from Primetime Caribbean. Internationally, Russia has been accused of using a United Nations Security Council meeting to spread lies and disinformation about biological weapons in Ukraine. Western ambassadors say Russia is fabricating the threat to justify war. Thank you for listening.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and National Bank.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tilly Wall with a low reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Delia Walwyn, people you can trust.
Stop standing in long ATM lines to withdraw cash. Use your national debit or black cards to complete a wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more. Shop online at the most popular websites and stores for quality brands using your national debit or black cards. And take back your time to enjoy all the things that you love to do. Remember, instead of waiting in long ATM lines to withdraw cash, use your national bank cards today.
National Bank, always here.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With over a century of perfection behind the Magasin name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness. It's no wonder Mackerson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackerson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
People make the world go
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop
www.shoptdcgroup.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News with Alarm Clock. I am your co-host, Gian Williams, and I am joined by Desi Brown, who's also our usual co-host and also a co-founder of Alarm Clock. If you have not been familiar with Alarm Clock, it is a show discussing politics and governance issues, but not in the usual format of politics and government that we usually associate, those kind of discussions. In simple, the best way I could put it, we talk about politics without the ray. And the attacks and the, peripheral unnecessary things that usually cloud discussions about politics and governance. So we like to talk about growing and how we can find opportunities for growth and development, to really try to educate people on the issues that we're discussing. So it's really a place where people get to become informed about issues that are related to politics and governance. So today, in light of International Women's Month, we are discussing women in politics under the topic, more women. Does that mean more problems? More women, more problems? Is it more women, less problems? Is it more women, so nothing has changed? So we are discussing that, and we had a really good first hour with Natasha Gray Brooks and Marsha Henderson, both women who have stepped up in leadership roles in their respective political parties. The conversation took a very open and interesting turn that, Desi and I, we were commenting that we didn't anticipate that, but it's interesting that we are becoming much more open and much more forthright about issues that affect women's ability to take part in politics and leadership roles. So the second hour now, we're going to be talking with some members of the Caribbean Institute of Women in Leadership, and Desi herself is a member of the ROWL, which is the
Regional Organization of Women in Leadership.
Yes. So there are two organizations operating throughout the region that are really working towards increasing the number of women in politics and leadership positions. I think Desi ROWL, there was an age limit, or the trainees are usually a certain age?
Well, ROLE is actually the organization, and we have a number of initiatives that we're working on. Well, one we just recently launched, which is called AIM, Advancing and Inspiring Mentees.
Mhm.
And that program runs from ages 18 to 28. But the other program that we would have spearheaded for the U.S. Embassy of the grant coordination opportunity that we won last year was for women between the ages of 18 and 35.
Okay.
So that's WIPLE, which is the Women in Politics Leadership Institute.
Mhm.
It is the brainchild of the U.S. Embassy, and we were the founders of ROLE, were members of the first cohort. Five of us came together and decided that we wanted to make a bet on investing our time and talents into coordinating the WIPLE program for the second year, which was last year, 2021, and we were successful. We thought the program was excellently put together and impactful, and of course we would have done the work to try as much as possible to improve it to meet the needs of Caribbean women.
Mhm.
Considering that we know the U.S. Embassy's influence would have been heavy on the U.S. side. It was useful for us to make an input to improve the quality of the program. They were grateful for that. The partnership was fruitful, and it was really a successful initiative last year.
Nice. So there's focused energy on that, and I'm liking that they pinpointed the 18 to 35, the young demographic.
Yeah.
Interesting. I guess we'll talk more about that and your work and your goals and your objectives in that regard. We're joined via Zoom by two members of the Caribbean Institute of Women in Leadership. which I am also a member. So, Wanda and Willis, good afternoon, and thank you for joining. Just making sure we could hear you. Good.
Good afternoon, Jihan. Good
Hi.
afternoon, everyone.
All right.
And just to correct it, the Caribbean Institute for Women in Leadership, think it's a Nevis chapter.
Yes, Saint Kitts and Nevis chapter. Yes, so there are chapters in each of, or should be chapters in each of the islands, and so these representatives are from the Saint Kitts and Nevis chapter. Correct. Rhonda, are you with us?
Yes, good afternoon, Jihan. Good afternoon, Desi.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon, Willis. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Jihan, for the kind invitation.
Great.
Cyril actually has chapters, I think it's just Antigua, us St. Kitts Nevis, of course, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Bahamas, Belize, and Trinidad and Tobago. So they've yet to read some of the other islands, but they're getting there.
Getting there. So could you or Willis tell us a bit about CIWIL and the objectives so that people who are not familiar with the group could be informed?
Okay, so I'm Willis Goddess, and I'm the secretary on the executive for the local chapter. And CIWIL, as you said, is the Caribbean Institute for Women in Leadership. And it really started 11 years ago. So last year, I think we celebrated our 10th anniversary, where the CIWIL joined with UN Women and UV to present, to train a cadre of women in the Caribbean to step up in leadership positions, especially within the political arena. And so that is where we started 11 years ago. Last year we celebrated, like I said, our 10th anniversary, and we was really happy about it, and we did a big thing during the month of March when we celebrated the International Women's Month. And so CIWIL Think It's chapter, Think It's a Nevis chapter, really is carrying on the core objectives of CIWIL Regional. So the regional office is based in Trinidad. And we are incorporating the cohorts from the different trainings. So we had three training in 2010. And we have encouraged other females within St. Kitts and Nevis who are interested in leadership. And then again, it was not only leadership in politics, but it was leadership in civil society, leadership in communities, any leadership position, but it centered a lot around changing the balance in the political arena to have more women in that. And I think it stems from the fact that we had signed on to a treaty where we would have had 33.3% of our parliament being women. And so that is where I think this whole training of the women in the Caribbean came from. So we intend to carry on the core objectives of the regional body, in that we are grooming women who are in leadership, who want to be in leadership, who are interested in politics, and having an environment where they could go and develop within those avenues.
Okay, nice. So, Rhonda, can you give us an idea of some of the people who have been trained, some of the names that might be familiar to the listening public, so that they understand some of the women who have undergone training with CIWIL?
Yes, I can certainly do that. Before I even continue though, Gian, just allow me the opportunity to wish all the women who are listening on the alarm clock a happy, it's already passed, but for me it's a whole month celebration.
Yeah, it's the month, we're taking the whole month.
Yes, I'm certainly just going to wish all the women a happy Women's Day and month. As women, we do struggle, individually and even collectively And so I would just like to use the opportunity to encourage all the women to stay steadfast, focused, stay true to yourself and to your goals and aspirations as women. We are greater in numbers, as they say, and united. And I would certainly want to encourage you to continue to celebrate yourself for the rest of the month and continue to celebrate each other as well. But as it relates, yes, to Cyril, I'm happy that Willis was able to give such an in-depth background. She's been in Cyril for such a long time. I came in 2019 when I attended a training workshop under the kind invitation of Miss Telka Wallace. She had just organized a workshop in Nevis, and I was invited and I attended. And after that meeting, the St. Kitts Nevis chapter was birthed, more or less. We had an election and I became the public relations officer, Willis, the secretary. And so for me, I'm very new in a sense to Cyril, but not new to the whole concept of it as it relates to women being in leadership. For me, it's not so much the political side of the leadership, but maybe more corporate, professional leadership in a sense. As it relates to some of the persons who I have the pleasure of being around in Cyril right now, we have our Vice President, Naima Hazel. Gianna, are you referring to the current composition?
Well, not necessarily the
members?
composition, but just persons who would have gone through training, just generally, not necessarily.
Yes, perhaps Willis can start out with some of the more.
Yeah, Willis knows everybody.
Yes.
Okay, so we had a
Maybe I
cohort.
can speak to some of the young
Training was in
women.
Antigua. The first training was in Antigua, and that was attended, and these are the St. Kitts persons who attended. Reggie Han was part of that cohort, which is the first one. We had Cindy Deming. We had Miley Farrell.
You're in it for that long. I didn't
Yeah.
even realize that.
Yeah.
Miley Farrell from Nevis, Patricia Hanley from Nevis, and Yvette Herbert. I'm not sure if she was from Nevis or St. Kitts.
St. Kitts. St. Kitts.
Okay. And each of the training had, in those days, and I could be corrected, the invitation came through the political party.
Yes.
So there were, most of who attended attended on behalf of a political party or selected by a political party. So in cohort 2, which was in St. Lucia, there were Telka Wallace, Terella Byron, Hazel Brandy Williams, and Denise Aline. I hope I'm not missing anybody. And cohort 5, which was in Jamaica, there was Curlin Merchant from Nevis, Maxine Stanley, Andrea Bosu from Nevis, Diana Collins, Selma Richards, and myself.
Okay.
So those are I think it's...
Those were the first 3 cohorts from... Right. Yeah, and so...
I'm not certain they had any more similar to that, because at all of these training, we were joined by other countries. So cohort 3 was in Jamaica, and there were representatives from other countries down to Belize, Bahamas, all the Caribbean, OECS islands, and some of I think it was CARICOM really who participated in the training.
Right. But I think Rhonda's training now was it St. Kitts and Dominica? I believe Dominica was involved.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
And Montserrat.
We had somebody from
Yeah.
we had somebody from Montserrat or Anguilla, I couldn't remember where. So yeah. That training was held in St. Kitts.
Okay.
That was 2019. Yeah.
So
at that right after that training, we had the election. So also St. Kitts was the first country to form a national chapter of Cyril.
So, ladies, there are things happening, whether it's Cyril or Raul. Desi, are there any? Can you give us an idea of the persons who've been trained in Whipley? so that the names.
If I may, Jan, before
Uh-huh.
we go to Tessie and those members, maybe I can just mention some of those who I trained with in 2019, who are still maybe a little bit new
Mhm.
to civil, but they're still, active members. Know we had persons like Patricia Bartlett, she was trained, Deli Keynes, Naima, of course, Natasha Gray. She was there as well. I worked with two others who were also on that training. Those persons are Janicia Hodge and Althea Campbell. Seba Jones from Nevis as well. She was also a part of that training. Those are some of the persons I can distinctly recall who were trained and who are still very much with the group today.
Right. So we have, you've called no less than 20 names so far, and this is going to add another, how much? Of some who've been trained under the Whipley program.
All right, so we okay, so I can say that for Whipley, for a number of us who started in 2020, many of us the program is regional. So and that program specifically targets Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Grenada, Barbados, St. Lucia, for sure. Currently from on the Whipley, we have the current CARICOM Youth Ambassador for Barbados, Megan Theobalds. She was in 2020. You have the current Attorney General of Grenada. She got her post after Whipley. Dia Forrester was trained on the Whipley. You have Shade Jamont from Barbados, currently just recently appointed to the Board of Tourism and is currently leading the national discussions on, I think, their youth council or something of that sort. You also have Roshana Trim, who recently organized, another Bajan, who recently organized the international, I can't remember exactly the name of it, but a major UN organization, a subsidiary of the UN, forum in Barbados, but she's also a political advocate. She's a social entrepreneur, does a lot of work with organizations and NGOs across the world. You have, of course, myself. You have Joy Napier from Nevis. You have Janelle, I can't remember her last name from Nevis as well. I think they have the vote, the initiative to
Dirty Your Finger.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're also political activists. They're very community oriented. They're very incredibly young women. Who else from St. Kitts? Siobhan Phipps would have done. She's currently finishing her last year as a lawyer. Former talented teen and former Caribbean talented teen queen, but she's exceptional intellect. We have quite a lot. 3 of Sorol's membership now has Kadia Florius, who is a St. Lucian. She works with the government of St. Lucia, and she's an attorney at law. You have a humanitarian lawyer in Nia Brathwaite, who is in Barbados. Another St. Lucian, who is a human rights activist, running her own organization as well. In the LGBTQ space, her name is Jessica St. Rose. And you have Dominica and Deborah Francis, who is a project coordinator extraordinaire.
What about the ones who are from St. Kitts and Nevis, the last cohort?
No, I'm going to give you that as well. So I'm just running through the names. Last year we had Iseline, what's Iseline's last name?
Philip?
Yes.
Yes.
Iseline Philip, and Gabriella Brantley. And we had Taliba Byron and Nishama from St. Kitts, and we know they're very ambitious, outstanding, and I would like to say here that in their application process we had to score all the applicants following a rubric, of course, on their applications, and there were the only 4 applicants of the 25 young women who were accepted into the program that got full 100% scores.
Wow.
And that had nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing to do with me, but how outstandingly they represented themselves. And we have, of course, another cohort of women all over the region who would have benefited as well and are doing amazing things. We also have a former senator. We also have a current senator in St. Lucia and the communications person for the Prime Minister currently, who was in our cohort last year as well. Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot happening behind the scenes to develop and groom women for positions of leadership in politics and other areas as well. So I want to get from you three ladies now, what do you think is going to happen? Know that we have a I can't even say a handful. That's like a lot of people, a handful of women who have been trained, who have expressed interest in holding positions of leadership, not necessarily political, but political and other areas as well. Where do you see us going, or where would you want us to go with this information? With this grouping now, because before maybe we didn't have that grouping. Before we might have thought, that woman over there is good for politics, or that woman over there is perhaps someone who we should start to tap into. But now you actually have, we've called, like I said, no less than 20 names in St. Kitts and Nevis alone who are trained to hold positions of high power. So where do we go from here?
I think, Bihan, it means that we have begun the process, even though it's taken a while to redefine the gender balance, and for women to know, what is great about it, especially for Cyril, and even understanding the other group that Leslie's talking about, it's women from all persuasions, political persuasions, cooperating, who are working together, who come together and say, look, we want to make a difference. And to me, that is the key for where we start, that we can all come together under an umbrella of an organization and work to develop each other, despite our different political persuasions, political ambitions, that we can work together to create spaces for women to grow and develop within leadership, in leadership. And to me, that's very, 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 very good for our small island. It means no longer that we as women are saying, look, we are quite capable of being in leadership. We are quite capable of leading any organization, the country that we grew up in, that we are quite capable of doing it. And we have stepped forward. We have done what we're supposed to do. And interestingly enough, a lot of the men, they haven't gone through what we've gone through in terms of the training and the development process and all of that. The challenge is that women still have to keep proving themselves 10 times over, unlike our, the other gender. But it is a great, great feeling to see that women have worked together to create spaces for each other.
Yeah. What about you, Rhonda? Where do you think we can go with all these powerhouses of women?
I would say for me, I think, as women, we certainly have come a very long way. I know I've been in the working world for quite a while. And I can certainly see the progress that we women have made as it relates to whether it's leadership on the job. Well, for me, specifically that, but I certainly have seen the progress we have made as women in politics as well. I mean, if you were to look back, say, 30 years ago, as compared to now, we've certainly seen a blast of women putting themselves up for active politics, and even if not for active politics, to be within the camp, you know, having high positions. I mean, you just spoke about Natasha Gray and Marsha Henderson being with you in the first hour. And as you've said, those two have put themselves up for higher positions, you know, within their political parties. So we've certainly seen the progress. We are no longer, to me personally, fighting for a seat at the table. I think we're pretty much at the table, and we're having we're being a part of the important discussion on what do we want as women. I certainly, though, even within my own professional sphere, I'm an attorney at law, and so of course for me, I'm always focused on that area. And I certainly would want to see a lot more women stepping up in positions such as even becoming a Queen Counsel. I mean, for me, it is disheartening to see that I don't even know if we have one within the Federation as yet. We do not have a Queen's Counsel, for example, within the Federation. And
A female one. Not a
Female,
female one,
sorry,
yeah.
female, yes, I'm speaking of female Queen Counsel. Throughout the region, that number is very small as well. And so for me, within my professional sphere, I would certainly love to see an advancement in that area. I think this year was just the first year judges were celebrated on International Women's Day. So perhaps going forward, we may see a lot more female judges being pushed.
And there are so
those are
many,
some
though.
of- But there's so many, but I don't know. It just seemed to me like the men still seem to get such high recognition. I understand, yes, we have our female Chief Justice, which is great, which is a great step in the right direction. But I certainly would want to see a lot more of us women, maybe within my federation, I'm speaking of, stepping into those roles. Of course, because women have made such great advancement in politics, I certainly would like to see not just women becoming ministers of government, but maybe vying strongly for more a position as the prime minister, not just within the federation, but elsewhere in the region. So I certainly would want to see women still pushing
At the
themselves
top.
a little bit harder to get at the top.
The top.
I mean, you really said it nicely. We have come a long way. It's been a long journey, and we're happy, yes, but I still want to see us at the top. And I think I'm speaking for myself, not necessarily in politics, but certainly within, you know, my own sphere, professionally and otherwise. So I certainly would wish to commend so many of those impressive young ladies that Desi has just listed. I was like, wow, they've saved all these exciting young groups for when I'm no longer.
What
But
about?
I am really impressed, and I wish to congratulate Desi, my old, you know, student of law, and so many of these young women for agreeing to take on these leadership positions.
All right, thank you so much. I mean, I have my own input here. I think we're talking about, again, I love to throw numbers and talk about things exactly as it is. We're saying yes, women are making progress. We are getting to the highest positions of power. We're stepping into our greatness, as we've been hearing a lot this past year, especially as a tagline, to see women getting into spaces in which we're always tried. Right now, we all know that women are held under a greater scrutiny than our male counterparts, and we find that a lot of women suffer more from imposter syndrome than men will ever. The statistics are there to prove it, that women will apply for a job if they're 80% qualified, whereas men will apply for that same job if they only have 40% of the qualifications on that list. We do tend to systematically, and I say it all the time for years, underestimate ourselves. So that's a thing. What I want to see more of is the training opportunities and of course the mentorship, because what comes with mentorship is the connecting, the ability to organize ourselves well and then expand our networks. I find that a lot of our programs, Civil and Roll, offers that opportunity. So we get to connect with women who are, and I can say the quality of leaders that presented at Whipley this last year and the year before are remarkable, and women in our own sphere. They're diplomats. They're representing their countries as leaders across the world. They're working with me. We had Jacinth Henry Martin, a woman we've seen come into elective politics and get into, and is working in Washington, D.C. As a strong, powerful leader there among her own colleagues. She is as radiant as life. She's amazing and had impacted a lot of the women to be, fearless and continue on in a path. And all these opportunities and all these women would have offered their numbers, their email addresses to connect with other women who can help them to continue being groomed for positions of power. So it doesn't stop there. So it's the training, the mentorship and connecting. And then with the connecting, of course, we get women in places that they deserve to be, because you're going to have to, and we've been saying it. A lot of people say that a lot of women don't look out for women, but we are probably products of being in spaces where women do elevate and recommend and share who we are and the greatness that we are with other people so that we can get opportunities. Whereas, we do also see men doing that, which we greatly appreciate. But we find that the narrative is that women don't support women. And so I really want to see more of what we're doing in other spaces. So not just role, not just civil training and organizing and connecting. So I definitely want to see that. And not just, we have a culture of tokenism where we feel like, okay, we need a woman, so let's put her there, right? But I can say this, men still continue to dominate in politics, right? The UN Women would have reported that women serves as head of states in 22 countries only, and 119 countries had never had a woman leader. So at the current rate, gender equality in its highest positions of power will not be reached for another 130 years. So as close as the United States, there are like 524 legislative seats, and only 142 of them are held by women. And it was only last year 2 years ago, that we would have seen the vice president in Kamala Harris getting to that position in the United States. So there are so many other areas of stereotypes that continue to affect women matriculating into these positions, and we also get that women are not good enough. Women are perceived as weak and emotional or even aggressive, when in fact, I've worked with a lot of men and experience.
Their emotion is very different. They're not crying, but they're lots of pouting.
Right. So it's interesting to see how we consider the way in which we show our emotions compared to our male counterparts, when in fact sometimes the women seem to hold a very strong position and stance on the things that they believe in and the decisions that they make, as opposed to some of our male counterparts who may go like, not this, why we have to do this, and rah, 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 rah. It sometimes happens like that, not in all spaces though, because there are men who go like, this is it, this is that, and there is no discussion to be had about it, right? But we really want to see, we're talking about it happening. I just revealed the numbers. It's happening, but it's happening very slowly. But there are other ways. I want to see gender quotas, so that's another way we can go in assisting. There's a fear that, again, tokenism will have its play there, but I actually I have an issue with quotas sometimes, and then I don't have an issue with it, and I'll explain why. Because we really do argue that besides tokenism, it really seems to be, it can undermine sometimes the selection of candidates. So you have, instead of giving people positions based on merit and discrimination, and probably can facilitate discrimination against men, we really want to I really do have a problem in that area. But if you really think about it, the rate at which we are progressing to include or even consider women at the highest positions, we'll probably never get there if we really don't start thinking about quotas. So I'm not opposed to it in that regard. So if we are to create change, we really gonna have to institutionalize it by doing something like this, which is creating policy that creates a space and encourages women to step up, because we do have an issue with women stepping up, feeling like there is not a space to step up, and not just in politics, but in really positions of leadership.
But I think that's the problem. I think the problem really is tokenism. That's my biggest fear.
Like
when
people,
it comes to quotas, the fact that you're just going to put any woman there.
I don't, you see, no.
And a lot of times, let's be real, it's women who turn out to be yes women.
It is, you see, no, if you really do, I understand that, because I always say that tokenism is my problem with quotas. But if you really do create policy and you do mandate that there are a number of women, people are going to see it as an opportunity. Okay, I can really focus on getting into this space, because, and not just people, because it would similarly be for myself. I could really focus on getting this into this space because there is space for me. And the reason why I say that is because before Whipley 2021, I didn't like quotas. And Hazel Brandy Williams was one of our presenters last year, and she would have called me and said, Desi, you realize that a lot of the issues that women are having, because when the young women were speaking with the facilitators, the same issues came out. We don't feel like there's a space for us in politics. We don't feel like there's a space for us in politics, right? Because still, I am one of very few young women who are interested in getting into elective politics. Because even after having done that program, there are very few of them still saying, I'm not interested in getting there.
Tends to be the
I
case.
believe I can make my impact elsewhere, still shying away from stepping up to the plate and not realizing that the opportunity of being in that position could really help to shape narratives and help you make an impact in a way you can't being second in line. Right? So that's really one of the things. From observing, we really know that whether it's politics or any other field, it's really difficult for women to set aside to be able to see themselves in spaces that really do not demonstrate that they can be there. So it's really not, and we can reshape the way we talk about quotas, and I'm doing it here by just saying what I'm saying, right? You create the space, and you're going to see more women who are capable, really aspiring to be there and really aspiring to rub shoulders with individuals and shaping the way they think and demonstrate. Because I said it on International Women's Day, and a lot of people messaged me and said, that's very radical. I spoke about the fact that a lot of programs are training women to be like men, when in fact we need to train quality leaders as opposed to training women to be like the mediocre man, right? Telling them, because I've been told that say that over like a man. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it, right? I'm not doing it because I'm not a man, one, and I don't aspire to be like a man, two, and I'm going to be the kind of leader that I am, regardless of what you think, right? And regardless of how you think I should be to get to where I want to go. And if we continue doing that, we continue to create a space that is going to be mediocre. Like, everything is inherently flawed. Everything is going to be inherently flawed. So you're going to have people who are winning, who are, like I said, bad gals and bad boys. They're going to be the ones winning because we're continuing to spread the culture of...
I want Rillis and Wanda to chime in here on this conversation about quotas and how you feel about how do you feel about mandating that women have to take space must be left for women to occupy especially in the political space, because Desi's talking and she sounds really good and she deserves a standing ovation. But in my head, I'm thinking about, I have this image of this gate, and who is in control of this gate, who is going to let women into those spaces. And we don't have the remote. We don't have the remote that's controlling the gate.
Yeah, but we can get it if we want it.
We could take a look at NRP
Mm-hmm.
and we can ask the question: if a man was in the leadership position, would we have had so many women
Hmm.
stepping up?
Mm-hmm.
And so there behind you see, the question is, it is really, as you say, who is in charge of the gate. It
So maybe that's what we need to be exploring more. What strategies? Maybe and maybe it's not a conversation for the radio. Maybe we need to have like a private conference somewhere. And everybody leave from their phone.
Women saying all the time that it seems as if the only way we're gonna have more women, and I'm talking politically, is for them to get up and form a party.
Well,
and invite the men to join, or one or two men to join, but it's more women.
The tokenism? Then the men are the tokens?
Why not?
And it comes back to how I started. And I started with a goal in mind that we have always had this feeling that women don't support women.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that is the reason why women weren't stepping up, because it is really your own who pulls you back down.
Mm-hmm.
And so it comes back to how I started the conversation, that it is really good that we have a cadre of women from different political persuasions who can work under an umbrella to create a space for each other.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you're in the same political party as I am, but that you understand the need and the necessity to have that equality,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
In our highest office,
Mm-hmm.
that and the argument persists. And no matter how we make the argument, it still persists. We have more women than men voted,
Mm-hmm.
but we have more men than women making the policies.
Mm-hmm.
It's a continuous conversation that comes up, and so the question, the conversation is, maybe the only way you could get it going is and mind you, if even within the political parties, and I'm sure if the women who are aligned with political parties will be honest, they will know how difficult it is to get
where they
to the
are.
top. You meet a barrier.
The gate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel
that's a wall.
You see, I know.
A wall. Wow. I said this somewhere to get the gate open. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
one of the
when footballers hook in and they create that something, and it's pure male.
Yeah.
And so you can't pass through unless one of those males say, well, I will shift
Support
my
you.
space and you can fit in here.
Mm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
But the barriers are real, and they're real, and it really is. I don't know what they think that women. Sometimes I think about it, and maybe I will be cautious how I say. Sometimes I think about it as if, in when we look back at slavery time, and the way the white people treated the enslaved Africans, with such brutality, and I believe honestly because they were afraid of them. When they look at a black man and they realize he could just hit me one lash and kill me, when we try to bring him down. So maybe that's the fear of men. They feel like they're afraid of women because we're more powerful than them.
They'll be displaced, the fear of...
Maybe that is why the barrier there, they don't want women to get in, because, women come with a whole different paradigm. Things are done.
I want us to be very careful.
So it will change.
I want us
to... a lot.
I want us to
be... But tell me something, though. I mean, I'm sitting and I'm listening, and this is very, interesting. And I was certainly a bit alarmed with the statistics Desi assisted us with. And when she spoke of the 130, it would take 130 years for women to even reach at a certain position.
At the pace, correct.
Exactly. And I'm wondering, I mean, why are we waiting for the men to open this heavy gate or break down? I mean, why do we have to break down a wall? I mean, why, as women, aren't we having a conversation of just going at it on our own? I mean, there's so many women. We've had all this training. I'm wondering if half of these men who are in political positions even went through a third of the training that we as women would have gone through.
Competence
Look
is
at how
not
much.
really a requirement for some politicians. Let's be honest.
I certainly didn't want to put it in that way,
But I wanted.
we've been through so much
No,
training in
interesting.
civil, in some of those
Interesting, you know.
groups.
Go ahead, Willis.
Some of the groups.
And Jihan and Desi. I remember the conversation started in my political arena that, you know, we should start to train the men after we came back. Conversation did not even go nowhere fast. You know, you say, oh, you know, we have got all this training and we come back with all this knowledge. I mean, I was in the last cohort, so, you know, they had the others before me. And that conversation went nowhere fast. So it goes to show that the male don't think that they require this
They
kind
know
of
it
training.
already. They
And
know it.
That's
But
because
yeah,
there's a concept that men are fit to lead, and women require more attention to be able to become leaders. But what I want us to be careful is that we keep saying that men are the gatekeepers. Sometimes the gatekeepers are a combination of everything. Is a combination of everything. You have society having we live in a patriarchal space, right? That we were raised to believe this. So women themselves also believe that women do not belong in high positions of leadership, because I've been confronted with whether it's by a man or a woman of incredible questions of my capabilities. What's your, like, they would come down on me on what's your background, what have you done, and then I would sit down next to my male counterpart who may not have had most of the time an extensive and quality experience as I have had in my field to be able to deliver, and they may choose him over me or consider him to be leader over me. There's and that happens a lot with women. We have to be very careful that we are saying that it's just men who are holding the keys to the gate or building up the wall, because it's really a combination of things and
Fair
people,
enough.
right?
Fair enough.
One of the
But
things
I
we were
that earlier
Yeah.
as well, that, you know, women, you know, we were living in an era where women, we were our own enemies. We, you know, and so the fact that we have begun to create spaces where we could work together and see the benefit of supporting each other, that is where you know, we are starting to see a change. You could get up and say, a woman get up and she say, I'm going to run for political leadership, and other women in leadership get up and say, congratulations. You know, it's good because they understand that the difference a woman can make in a leadership position. We need to get, I think that's where we need to forget the men, honestly, and start to change the mindset of the women, because honestly, like I said, women are the greater, you know, they are the larger force behind choosing political leaders, and you know, and so we need to change the mindset of women. We need women to understand women, any woman is a powerful being.
So you're saying we should try working on other women, not necessarily women who want to be in leadership, but the average woman in trying to train her or help her to see that another woman is capable as well. So
not even another woman,
yes.
they themselves.
and
They-
all
if
right,
they see-
including themselves,
yes.
right?
If they see the power they have, they will understand that somebody else have that power as well. You have the power. You are capable of doing anything you want to do as a woman. And so you don't need a man, honestly.
Right.
You
So
met
once you get
But
women to
I am
understand your power, then their mindset will change. So when they say woman set up, they understand this is a powerful woman. She could do anything. She put her mind to do.
Really said something.
I am happy. Yes. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Desi.
Really said something earlier that I wanted to just highlight when she mentioned that there are more women than men that's voting usually. And this is actually one of the things that I thought about when I think about pushing gender quotas as well, that we need to have a representation that reflects our population as well, right? I'm not saying that men are incapable of representing women's issues or issues that affect women, because we already know that women are literally the cornerstone of our society. Like they're doing everything in every aspect of our society that helps to keep everything together. They're the glue, right? Well, we are. I'm saying there as if I am outside of that. But I really think that I would vote for, and we were talking about that, white gender quotas for that very reason, that we need to be able to see representation on that level so that we could become more progressive nations, right? Because if electoral quotas were to be established and they've gained international support so much and have proven to be effective in fast-tracking women's political representation to produce quality of results, not just equality of opportunity, I want to add right now that it is equally important for us to empower women through training and education. So don't just say put the gender quotas. Don't continue training them, but continue training us. Put the gender quotas. And you can also look at countries like Rwanda and Spain and Finland, who have a majority of women that form their governments. But in Finland, they mentioned earlier forming a female coalition. They formed a female coalition so that their opportunities of becoming part of the governments were at a higher stake than because all of them didn't make it, but a majority of them did. And so that helped to kind of create the kind of change that they wanted to see across Finland. So that's why I feel like gender quotas would fast track those 130 years. Let's just, go back there and say, we need to do something to fast track our thing, because we can't wait 130 years. What will our nations look and feel like in 130 years without that level of representation?
That's so true.
So
yeah, but ladies, look at how fast an hour has passed.
Dear.
Yes, and man, this conversation could go on for so much longer. I'm really starting to feel like we need to plan this private conference. And
we should.
Yeah, but it's definitely to the point that that has been made a lot. I think when we've been in the spaces of environments like Sewell and Rowell, it seems so foreign to us when people say women don't support women, knowing that there is such great support that has been afforded to us, where people have expended resources to ensure that we are developed, and we also look back to see who else we could pull with us as well. So
maybe the question, Gian, is who are these women who are not supporting women?
No, I think even with it, because when you add other dynamics like politics as well, then things get dicey in terms of we can support each other, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So a lot of women, we might see our female counterpart from another political party being attacked, and we join in because it's politics. So I think we have to be real that a lot of that happens still, but I'm happy that we're seeing more instances where people go across party lines and say, I am going to help protect and defend my sister, even though we're not on the same political side. So we have those examples, and I really want to encourage those of us who believe in those kind of principles of support, regardless of politics and any other kind of divisive element that people love to introduce into the conversation, for us to really move past these things and really support one another, because we're all saying the same things. We all think that women have so much to add to the discussion and add to nation building. So we really have to do what's necessary to push that. But ladies, we've come to the end of the show. I just want to thank you, Willis and Rhonda, for joining, and say, of course, good afternoon to any other Siwil and Raul members who might be, our trainees who might be listening. We thank you for your work. Happy International Women's Month to all women, regardless of your stage or status or standing. You are powerful, you have a lot to contribute, and we hope that you do so boldly and bravely. Thank you to Natasha Gray Brooks and Marsha Henderson for joining us this morning, who really gave us some real behind-the-scenes insights as to considerations that women who have put themselves forward into elective politics that they have to give into. Yes, that's the best word. Authentic conversation about challenges with motherhood and the things that they have to consider when you want to go into politics. So cheers to much more authentic conversations and much more discourse about helping women to develop and grow as positive, game-changing contributors in our society. So thank you, ladies, for joining us. Thank you
as well.
Those for yes. Y'all know the conversation is going to continue. So with the private conference,
Definitely.
Right. So
yes, thank you, Gian, and keep up the good work. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yes, congratulations. I'm glad that I learned about that. There are other training going on for women. I'm really, really excited to hear that.
Yes. And I'm loving the focus on the 18 to 35 too. So catch them early.
Yes. Even earlier.
That's true. That's so true.
Time to speak about that, but in our private.
In the conference, yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, and have a blessed afternoon. This has been Inside the News with Alarm Clock. We are usually here on the last Saturday of every month, but this month we had to move it up a few weeks. But we will be back next month with more conversations about politics and governance. Hope you join us on the last Saturday of April. We look forward to you joining the conversation. Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye-bye.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together.